Johnny and Justin were two simple Imagineers at Disneyland until they dared to ask the question,
Hey, Justin, is Disney diverse?
Well, Johnny, I'm not.
Oh no, we've angered the mouse!
Stormtroopers, run!
Holy crap, it's a gathering of cookies!
Now, from undisclosed locations within the Disney park, Johnny and Justin record a podcast where they seek to answer the question, is the Disney catalog diverse?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Disney+Diversity. I'm Johnny.
I'm Justin.
And on today's episode, we are welcomed by another special guest of ours. You've seen her once, you've seen her twice. Please welcome again. We have the amazing, the outstanding, the Toni Sanchez. Woo!
My goodness.
How many times have you been on the show?
You guys have no friends but me, so.
This is true.
All the other guests have been just paid.
I'm your only friend.
Who will work for free?
That is absolutely true.
But no.
I have no self-esteem. It's fine.
No, the Toni Sanchez is amazing, literally amazing. And here's the thing, as you know, part of the reason why we have the Toni Sanchez on is because, everybody, this is Pride Month. Flag. Okay, so the thing about this, so as you know, with Pride Month, we've been going through and talking about some different things. And on today's episode, we invited Toni in because Toni is an amazing person who is also part of a podcast called Have You Tried Not Being a Podcast? Toni, would you mind telling the people what that podcast is about?
Yeah, so Have You Tried Not Being a Podcast is a podcast about queer representation in pop culture and media. I get to sit down with my two co-hosts, Chris and Yell, and we just kind of pick apart certain issues. And we actually have a whole episode about Glee.
Glee? What do you mean?
What's that? I don't even know what that's about. That might come into play later. But yeah, we break down a number of issues that pertain to not only the queer community, but also queer representation.
Exactly. And so part of the reason why we invited Toni on is because, as she kind of gave you a little a snippet of, today, y'all, we will be talking about Glee, but not only just Glee, though, y'all, because as we watched Glee, we was like, you know what, this kind of reminds us of another series that we just watched. They are both technically owned by Disney now, thanks to the Fox merger. So today, y'all, we'll be doing Glee versus High School Musical, the series! Woo!
Strangers waiting up and down the boulevard, soaring, flying.
All right, so check it out. So here's the thing. This is a new series we're doing on the Disney+Diversity channel. It's our Versus series. Boom. So,
we're doing that. Whoa.
So for the Versus series, we'll be going through and we'll be comparing different elements of the shows to see how they stand up against each other. So today, as we talk about Glee and High School Musical, we've broken it down. Let's get it cracking. Let's go into our first category. All right, exactly. Fight. First category. Plots. Okay, so as we discussed the plot, break it down for us really quickly. Who'd like to go first and tell us which plot do you prefer? Oh, you know, before we get the plot, though, we should actually tell the people the plot of the series and give a synopsis. So, Justin, tell the people the plot of Glee, please.
Okay, the plot of Glee is an American musical comedy drama television series, and it focuses on the high school, William McKinley High School, and its Glee Club, Doy. And basically, every season, they put up a new production and all the classic stuff that you get through in all your classic high school TV shows, except interspersed with really, really catchy covers of popular songs that you probably know. And yeah, like the show has gotten like big names like Kristen Chenoweth shows up in a season and Idina Menzel shows up in a season. So they and Neil Patrick Harris shows up. Like they got some big people to like arrive in this show. And it's no joke. Glee had a lot of like, a really cool mix of just like combination of like pop songs and Broadway shows. So yeah, and how the kids in school dealt with it.
Yep. And then also don't forget it was created by, because people give
Ryan
a lot of
Murphy.
credit. Yeah, but people give a lot of credit to him, but it was actually created by 3 individuals. It was Ryan Murphy, Brad Falchuk, and Ian Brennan. So just give respect to like all those individuals, because people kind of lean heavily on Ryan Murphy. Was like, that show was a combination of all 3 other talents. In fact, one of them prescribed that show as a movie, and then they changed it into a television show. So props to those gents. And then with High School Musical, set at a fictionalized version of East High School, the school at which the original movie was filmed, High School Musical, the series is an American mockumentary, musical drama created for Disney+ by Tim Federer. Inspired by the High School Musical film series with Oliver Goldstick serving as showrunner for the first 4 episodes. He was later succeeded by Ferdell as showrunner for the remainder of the first season and thereafter. The series follows a group of teenage theater enthusiasts who participate in a staging of High School Musical, the musical, as their school production. It's been nominated for Kids' Choice Awards, has even won a GLAAD Award for Outstanding Children's Programming. So shout out to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so going into the plot of the both series, just doing a compare contrast, who'd like to go first? Which one did you kind of vibe with most?
Tony, why don't you?
Yeah.
Why don't I throw it at you?
Yeah. So we kind of talked about this a little bit before we hit record. This is not apples to apples comparison because High School Musical, the series. Oh my God. We're talking about a show that at the moment, as of recording, is sitting at, I believe, 17 episodes. It's about 1 complete first season and then 7 episodes into the second season versus Glee, which is about, I believe, 5 or 6. But basically much more episodes to and content from Glee versus High School Musical. So already I feel like that's kind of skewing my feelings about just both of them in general, and especially when we are trying to compare them just side by side. The plot. Okay, so you would think that Glee is about a Glee club, right? Like it's supposed to be, right? At a certain point, because they were trying to capitalize on the popularity of their OG first generation characters and actors, when those characters graduate high school, they leave the high school and therefore the Glee club, the show decides to follow them. And for whatever reason, all these kids decide to go to New York, because that's the thing that happens when you and your friend group just all decide to go en masse, right? To one place that you all agreed upon. And then the show just kind of became this weird, like half Glee club, half alumni in New York living their lives, trying to make it in the big city kind of show, which was just really weird. It was obviously a juggling act that kind of fell apart, to be honest, just because at a certain point they brought all the people that left that small town, they brought them back to actually take up leadership of their old Glee club, because they didn't know how to keep this going. And obviously they just couldn't at a certain point anymore. High School Musical, the show, is just about High School Musical. It's about a bunch of kids putting on a musical in high school. So I would say Glee is far more ambitious, but because the execution is so wonky to the point where I would consider it a failure, I'm going to give the edge to High School Musical. I appreciate a show that is able to go ahead and say, like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to execute this. But then again, I might be here in a couple years following the main characters as they leave for LA. And now High School Musical, the series, is about them trying to make it in the big city of LA. And I'm going to be really upset because I don't want that. But at the moment, right now, as it stands, when we are recording here today in June 2021, I'm going to edge to High School Musical for the plot.
Interesting. Okay, good choice. I did not see that going that way. The way you were building it up, you're like, they go to New York, they do this, they ride back to carpets. It was like, I'm giving the High School. I was like, oh, okay, all right, terrible, all right.
No, because there's such a thing as going too big, and you took on more than you could chew, and now look at you. There you are, choking in the corner. Well, no one is trying to help you.
All right. So for me, I agree. Like, again, watching it all the way through, the New York seasons was kind of things kind of like fell apart for me. Because again, at that point, like you said, it's getting too big. Plus, you brought in too many new characters, and there was enough time to do those new characters justice. However, scaling it back, I'm just going to think back to like those first 3 seasons, back when they were winning Golden Globe Awards, when they were winning Emmys and whatnot. I give them a lot of credit. Like, one, the storylines that they were doing was just supposed to be these kids start off this Glee Club was good, but then they kind of grew some things organic from that. And I'm mainly going to focus on Kurt. Kurt's storyline, which won him that Golden Globe Award, about him being this LGBT youth that was coming out during this time period, getting bullied on by a bully who was like making fun of him. Kurt having to transfer schools because the school can actually protect him, which is ridiculous, but actually happens though. And then he goes to this new school, has his like first love and everything like that. I thought was really well done because they kind of went through like Kurt's entire coming out process. First off, like his father catching him singing single ladies down in the basement and getting upset, like what's going on here. So his father finally accepted him and getting his son back. Till like, later on again, Kurt again getting his first boyfriend, having his romantic interest, going to New York, doing all the things, seeing a hate crime. Like, I'll give them credit. They did Kurt's storyline justice. Other storylines, okay. Again, it was fun. It was cool. The kind of problematic some ways. But because of Kurt's storyline, that's what really drew me in. When I look at High School Musical, the musical, I love it. I think it's dope. It's great high school fun. It's got some, it's great high school fun. It's got some drama to it. I will say I get kind of bored because like literally as I'm watching season 2, I'm looking like, Nene, you starting to get on my nerves, girl. Nene, you starting to get on my nerves. I'm sorry. When Ricky is over there going through that divorce and you're like, why do you need me so much? It's like, because his parents are getting divorced. He needs emotional support right now. Why can't you help him? Or just tell him to go get therapy? What is wrong with you, Nene? Why does everything revolve around you? Sorry, let me bring that back. Sorry. Olivia Rodrigo, lovely person. Nene. So saying all that, I'm going to give the edge to Glee. I'm actually going to vote for Glee for this category. They did a really great job by Kurt's storyline, which I'm going to keep going back to as a focal point. That's the anchor that holds down that show to me. And I feel that's the reason why people love his character to this day. I also give him credit for Brittany and Santana's storyline as well. What started off in bed is like this joking thing where like, let's do sweet lady kisses. They actually turned into like this lesbian storyline on the show. And it was like, and handled it pretty well. I was like, you know what? Damn, well done. So I'm going to give the edge here to Glee. Justin, you're the tiebreaker, apparently.
Okay, so as a person who has just admitted that I've only seen the first season of Glee, but I feel like that actually is a good place for me to compare, because season 1 of Glee could conceivably be similar to the amount of episodes that we have of High School Musical, the series, and I like saying the whole thing because it's ridiculous. Anyway, but I do feel like I feel like it's a good place to kind of, because it's a point where they're both kind of in a similar level of focus. It's just focusing on the kids, it's focusing on the teacher, it's focusing on, more importantly, the music and what performance means to kids in that time, in that, that part of their lives, if they're into it. Here's the thing. I did say I dropped Glee after season 1.
This is true. This is true.
And part of it, and this is a personal taste, a total personal taste, is that I think for me, the tone of the show has, and I know this is even the appeal of it for some folks, the tone of Glee has this mean streak that it really likes to hang on to. It enjoys it. And I get it, because it does allow a little subversion to like a high school, like a poppy high school concept. But there are times where I'm kind of like, do you have to be like that mean? Like, does it have to be like that? Like, I was in band in high school, and you'd think that would be a time of ridicule because I was a band geek, The reality is no one cared. No one cared. It's my experience. I'll point that out. It's my experience. But no one cared I was in band. No one cared what your chosen field of extracurricular activity was. So when I see people being so shitty to the Glee Club in the show, and even to the concept of being in a Glee Club, my heart kind of just went, hey, can you lay it off on them? This is what they need. Like, these kids need this. It's like there was a thing I kept going back and forth on, where I'm like, they show the story of the kids really like finding themselves and learning about, I'm more comfortable in my skin, or I feel like I'm more attuned to who I want to be because I'm learning how to this, and then music is doing this for me. And then you'll get some other kids going, yeah, but it's really stupid that you're into that. Or a teacher going, this is stupid. Why are we even doing this? It's like,
Shout out Jane Lynch.
Let me point out, I'll hold on to my thoughts on Jane Lynch until we get to characters. But but that's the struggle for me with the show's tone, is that it wants to be like, look at this sweet little, look at what art and music can do to students, but also it's really stupid if you're really into it. I couldn't do it. I mean, some people felt that balance worked for them, not for me. Whereas High School Musical, the series, it's all about that one thing, that being involved in musical arts can mean something to you. You can find yourself, you can find your community, you can find your friends. Like I said, I was in marching band all 4 years of my life and all 4 years of high school. I'm still friends with my bandmates. That's how tight of a bond doing those things are. None of us play music anymore. That's the reality. You know? Like, and if any of us does, it's like hanging out at a party and someone busts out a guitar or a drum, or they go on a piano and shit like that. That's it. But you know what? I still talk to like 8 members of my friends from band, because that experience meant a lot to us and we really bonded over that. And no one cares that we did like a marching band performance based off of The Wizard of Oz. No one cared that we did a marching band performance that's based off of Oklahoma. No one cares. I appreciate that. And
I
that
don't slush you the face, but keep
and
going.
And that we won awards and that we won a championship. We did. We really did. Like, we did really. Our band was really good. That I flew to Hawaii, you know, to perform. We performed at Disneyland every year. I saw the positivity of that, and what I think High School Musical, the series, shows that positivity that I can relate to, that I saw, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's generally what it's like. When I watch Glee, the show wants to throw a slushy in my face for having any positive feelings about performative arts as a way to be subversive of the kind of show it wants to be. And I went, I don't want that. You know, you know, that's my personal opinion. So yeah, points.
You're giving it to High School
Musical, the musical series.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, next category, characters. Okay, so now we're talking about the characters in the series, and again, whose characters were more endearing to us? All right, who'd like to go first for this one? You know what? Tony, you went first last time. Justin, we'll swing it to you.
Okay. You remember that Main Street thing I talked about in plot?
Mm-hmm.
It's in the characters too.
Oh my gosh, Justin, you're holding a grudge.
A lot of the characters are really selfish and self-centered and for themselves, and it's really hard for me to root for a lot of them. I like Artie. That means anything. I do like Artie. I do feel Kurt is interesting, and if the show was about Kurt only, if there was a show about Kurt, I would have found that to be a really good show, because I think all the stuff that Johnny points out is really interesting to me. I find Santana and Brittany really entertaining. Here's the thing, Mike Chang, look, Harry Shum Jr. Here he's a nice guy, talented as hell dancer, totally.
Yeah, big time.
Obviously. Did have a bit of a problem that they decided the Asian characters would date because they're Asian.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a knock. I'm not gonna give him that one.
This is your chance to break out and show everybody that you're more than just a fleet-footed dance ninja. Riff is perfect for you. He sings, he dances, he dives. It's the second male lead, Mike.
I'm overwhelmed and losing focus. Football, Glee Club, booty camps, we're ready for sectionals. I got an A-, Tina.
You got an Asian F?
Oh man, but do I love me some Jane Lynch. And you know what? She epitomizes the mean streak that I just talked about.
95% of your Cheerios should have flunked Spanish.
Oh, Will, we all know about your devotion to that dying language.
Dying language?
Let's try auditioning for Baywatch and being told that they're going in another direction. That was hard.
Who do you think I am?
That's actually a very good question because I've forgotten both of your names. You three are boring me now. I'm gonna go do something else.
Collecting since 1961.
Isn't this just lovely and normal?
So that being said, with the High School Musical the series, you know what? I grew to like Miss Jen after a bit. I think I kind of feel her. She's like, it's like if Kristen Chenoweth had a little sister. That's what I kind of like about her. I feel though I will say that like I think Ashlyn's great. Love me, Ashlyn. I like Big Red.
Big Red's dope.
I think Big Red's dope. Carlos. I like Carlos, and but I do feel that Ricky kind of bothers me at times because it's the romantic lead guy, and he's wishy-washy, but he's charming and he plays guitar. And yeah, I think Nina, it's so funny how like Nina is she's not quite Rachel from Glee, but she's not quite Vanessa Hudgens' character from High School Musical, though obviously that's who she's kind of filling in, even with the part Filipino-ness of the lead actress, which I don't know how intentional it was, probably super. But I like her and Ricky, like I just feel like they're in this we're the cis hetero romantic side plot that everyone wants from a Disney project, so they don't interest me as much. But Ashley, Courtney, you know, I like Courtney a hell of a lot. And Big Red, I think those are like kind of like I like everyone else. I think they're a lot of fun for me. So yep, point High School Musical the series.
Okay, all right. Justin says High School Musical series. Okay, Toni.
So while Justin was talking, I finally figured out what my problem was. I was confusing Glee's characters for Glee's dialogue.
Oh.
And when you said who do you find more endearing? And I'm like, God, I really love so-and-so from Glee and this person from Glee. And I just was like, wait a minute. I think I'm just really in love with the dialogue, because the dialogue on Glee is stellar. It's amazing. It's next level.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
Like when Jane Lynch, like when they just give her anything and everything to do whenever she's just being awful, it's amazing. It's a masterclass in just drags and insults. It's fantastic. Absolutely love it. And then they went ahead and discovered that, you know what, we could actually give Stu Sylvester's rants to Santana and to other characters who are going to be mean for us, and we don't all have to have it coming from our one teacher mouthpiece. And then it just disseminated from there because, like you said, like the characters are very mean. I also don't like that, but the meaner they are, the more entertaining they are. So then
Totally
like
fair.
the lizard part of my brain was just like, yes, I love it. Give me more. Do it.
Which is why I'm gonna stop drinking. Not even a beer at the end of the night to take the edge off.
But if you don't drink, what will you have to live for?
I have plenty in my life without beer.
Like what exactly?
The point is,
Rachel, you cannot do a nude scene.
It's not a nude scene. It's just a topless scene.
Same thing. Topless is as nude as anyone is ever gonna want to see you.
You know, there's only one person in this world who can tell you what you are.
Me.
No, me, Sue Sylvester.
Sue, you can't have no baby. You are old as a hill. You ain't gonna give birth to no child. You gonna give birth to a grandchild. You gonna get in them stirrups, and you gonna push, and a full-grown adult gonna pop out with a briefcase and a job, talking on a cell phone.
And I don't want that though, because like at a certain point it becomes excessive. It kind of just becomes, like you said, like they want to have their cake and eat it too. We want to be sincere about a Glee club and about the power of performance and music, but at the same time, you guys are really effing lame if you like this. It's kind of like the thing that Supernatural would do, where they would like ever so often have these really meta moments where they would just like shit on their own like fandom.
Yeah, sometimes they really did.
Yeah.
They really did.
And they would just be like, you guys are effing weird. Like they would have like these weird like crowd insert and fan insert characters, and they would just basically just insult them straight to their faces. And it's just like,
they went to their own fan convention at one point.
right. And they're like, this is lame. This is stupid. Who would actually want to be into this? Like, and so it's just this really, really weird yeah, so I felt like Glee was definitely on the same sort of juice on that. So when I'm thinking about the characters, though, Glee had the opportunity to be more complicated because we are talking about High School Musical, the series, only having like up to this point 10 episodes per season, whereas Glee had like a normal network TV run of like 22, 20 some episodes per season. So you just have a lot more
Too many.
You have
Too
a lot.
many.
It is too many. But that means you have more time to flesh these folks out. So at any given point, any good character has had an opportunity to be shitty. Any shitty character has had opportunity to have a redemption arc, to be good, to have a moment of humanity. So it's like we can have these complicated and even at times just straight up contradictory characters, which probably is more reflective of our real world. But to be honest, as a viewer, I found myself, I would want to watch High School Musical, the show, more than I would want to watch Glee, even for the characters.
Texted. She sounded neutral. Nothing about bad news or need to have a big talk. Just, hey. That's good, right?
Summers are no man's land, Ricky. I don't know what hey means, and neither do you.
Totally normal. Just heads up from now on.
My fault, my bad. If I said a million again, once upon a time.
Okay.
This is the moment when the creative team begins to give the show over to the cast, which is strangely emotional, actually. But Miss Jen says that's a life in the arts. Well, that and almost constant unemployment.
Edge to High School Musical.
Oh wow, okay.
Johnny.
Okay, so first off, Lima Heights and Lord Tubington, son. Lord Tubington, best cat ever. Lord Tubington held it down.
Look, it's Lord Tubington.
Hi.
This is Lord Tubington.
Say hi to the camera.
You want some cheese?
That's disgusting. These are babies. So you're just gonna let him do that?
Lord Tubington's allowed to eat cheese because he's on Atkins. Tonight, you, me, and Lord Tubington are gonna tell our deepest, darkest secrets. You tell me your guilty pleasures, and I'll tell you mine. Go.
Guilty pleasure? I like to fart around old people and watch the look on their faces because they just assume they did it.
That's awesome. Me too. Okay, guilty pleasure. When I look at a white dog or cat, I assume that they're racist. Lord Tubington's guilty pleasure is Scientology.
Please help pay his medical bills because he has a serious weight issue. So please help Lord Tubington. I miss that cat.
AIDS? That's feline AIDS. We had a fundraiser for feline AIDS, Johnny. No.
Yes, help Lord Tubington. Help Lord Tubington. But real talk though, serious thing. I enjoy the characters from Glee a lot. I think they're really fun. I think they're really dope. And I think they do some intrinsic things. And I believe, Tony, you brought up a good point, is that when you have 22 episodes a season, you go for 5 seasons, you got a lot of time to do some things with them. However, what did you really do though? Sometimes he did like one-off episodes. I remember we met Artie's mom for the first time, and they kind of talked about how when he was in the wheelchair, he took ownership of it. And he like said, "I'm gonna move down here into the living room space. This will be my bedroom." He made it work and everything. But think about this: over the span of those 7 seasons, what did you really do? Like again, I go back to Santana. Santana's one of my favorite characters. But how often did we actually go through Santana's background? She's like Lima Heights. We never did an episode in Lima Heights. It was like
Yeah, it was all just about her family just not accepting her.
Exactly.
She's not straight or whatever.
Exactly, but that came out later on though. But you could introduce like her like before that. You could also talk about the fact that she's a Latinx woman, explore that a little bit. There's so many dope things to do with Santana that they kind of dropped the ball on, and that's numerous characters, Mercedes as well. And so also when I think about characters, I also think about what characters were you missing. You're doing this like dope, like Glee Club right here. You're over here saying, "Hey, let's do Kanye West's Gold Digger. Let's do Jay-Z's New York, New York. Who's gonna do the rapping part? Get it, MC Artie."
You can't touch this. My music hits me so hard, makes me say, "Oh my Lord."
It's like y'all just can't put in a black man in the show. Brother can't get a job here.
They had a black man on that show. We didn't even know his name until
exactly. The first season he was just there. I was like, "Come on, brother, say something."
He was a random football player.
Exactly. Then he just left. And then later on they put in somebody, but again, he barely did anything because he's one of the new cast. And so honestly, it's also what cast members were you lacking too? So saying all that, I love me some High School Musical because it has a diverse cast. Everyone gets their own storyline. And here's the thing, they drop hints about these people having different characters. I love the season 1 finale of High School Musical where everything's going off. And then my man, Big Randy, hit that soft shoe, son. Hit that tab number, Big Red. Oh, get him, Big Red. Oh, shoot it like go, Big Red. So the thing about it is, I love that. And again, it set us up for second season. We'll get learn more about him. You also have EJ and his cousin. It's like, wait, they're related? But you see that family dynamic there. Everyone, it gets time to shine, and I learn more about them. I know more about them than I do the characters on Glee. And they only had one season and like 6 episodes. So right now, I'm going to give the edge to High School Musical. They won, unanimous vote. High School Musical wins characters. All right, everybody. Now we're doing music and performances. Okay, so Toni started. Justin started one. I'll kick us off. All right, music and performances. Here's the thing, real talk. I told y'all Valerie's one of my favorite songs. I'm being real. No matter what playlist I make, I put on Valerie every single time because Valerie by Santana is a jam. I have that and the Amy Winehouse Valerie on the same playlist, and I love them both equally.
Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water.
That being said, I love the fact that Glee does all these covers. I think they're dope as hell. Well, fuck, man. Some of these High School Musical the series songs are getting to me. And I'm here saying their original songs, which takes a bit more work. And we here saying Toni was on with us when we did the episode on the Cinderella 1997 with Brandy. And I said then, I like some musicals, but it doesn't always get to me. But gosh damn, if this series is giving it to me. And I don't know if it's just the talent of like the people who are singing these songs, but they're like moving me. Like Olivia Rodrigo in season 2, she does this dope song in one of the more recent episodes where she talks about not being your main focus of your love, how being more than just like a girlfriend, and how to watch it twice. Like, damn, it's actually kind of slaps.
Am I something to you and not someone?
It actually kind of goes hard. But then when you go to Glee, though, Glee is doing some amazing covers. And granted, doing those covers, they have the advantage of Michael Jackson. They have the advantage of Lady Gaga. They have the advantage of, it's Britney, bitch. So they have a lot of dope episodes they do to those. And their performances are on point. Mike Chang be killing it. Britney be killing it with them dance moves. I still remember when they performed Valerie with Santana, and I was like, I go back and watch that on a regular basis. I'm kind of torn right here. I might change my vote. Dang it, I'm torn. I'm going tie. I'm going tie for this one. I'm sorry. I'm going tie. The reason why I'm going tie is because original songs are a lot harder to get across than doing covers. That said, though, the covers they do are amazing. And they also find a creative way to do it. When they did, what was the name when they did with The Flash? Tell me out, Toni, when they did the Michael Jackson cover, and they did it with the actor who plays The Flash now on CW.
Oh, Grant Gustin?
Grant Gustin, yeah. What song did they do? It was him and Santana.
Oh, they did Smooth Criminal.
Smooth Criminal. And it had like the bass of
As he came into the window, it was the sound of a crescendo. He came into her apartment, he left the bloodstains on the carpet.
I was like, oh, get it. Oh, leave that. So here's the thing. I am going tie. It's on y'all. Go ahead.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is not even apples to oranges. This is like the most disparate set of like content that you could try to even compare, because you're right. Like trying to get an original song over, especially when you're like literally sandwiching them in between these very memorable, like almost, I mean, like how long has it been since High School Musical? Can we call it a classic by now? Like those are very memorable songs, right? Like we know them, and to see them reinterpreted, like this is different. Like some of them aren't as good as the originals, but that's fine. It doesn't need to be because it's a High School Musical. It's worthless to believe that these are actual high school kids doing this, right? The original songs though are fantastic. They're amazing. That's something I can't say for Glee's original songs, because Glee did come out with some original stuff. I think they tried to push about like 5 to 10 of those original tracks onto us, and I only remember one, really, Loser Like Me. And that was that was it. That was the only one I think that actually even had any modicum of mainstream success, like on the radio. But when you compare to just the flexibility and the vast catalog of songs that they were able to cover in Glee, right? And just the interpretation. I mean, like immediately the thing that comes to my mind is like Kristen Chenoweth doing her own rendition of Luther Vandross's "A House Is Not a Home."
Oh yeah.
And a house is not a home when the two of us are far apart, and one of us has a broken heart.
Where were we ever going to get that? Anywhere. Nowhere else, you know? And to have that just be not just a moment for her, but something that was like permeating that entire story arc where like those characters were in flux and, you know, not really having, you know, their own relationships or an actual home to call their own. Like that was like, oh, you're actually doing stuff with covers. You're not just standing in front of a mic, just doing something for entertainment's sake. Like you're actually moving along your plot and your character development through. Wow, that's nice. That's really great. Whereas with this, because we are within, you know, the High School Musical construct, which is these are auditions, these are run-throughs for a production, these are, you know, I think the original songs are usually like the personal moments, and those are the ones that we, I think, are a little more attached to, it sounds like. So yeah, it's just completely like, how do you judge that? How can you? I don't even think it's fair to call it a tie. It's just kind of like a draw, because what do you do? Gun to my head, if you had to like have me pick one, I would say Glee, just because you're right. You do have the benefit of Gaga and Britney and Michael Jackson and the entire like songbook of Broadway and the American Songbook. But even then, I think that I would rather call it a draw rather than give a point to either one, just because it's not really fair to compare fucking Gershwin to like Rodrigo. Like, how can I do that? You know, I can't. So.
Oh yeah, and to your point as well, there's also that point where Gwyneth Paltrow did a version of "Forget You" that was charting as well next to CeeLo's "Forget You" as well.
The American Music Awards or the Billboard Music Awards with CeeLo Green like a week later doing that shit because it was such a huge hit.
She almost stole a song from him. Like Aretha stole Respect, like from Otis Redding. She almost stole a song from him. Facino was like, nah, son. Nah, Nars Barkley, motherfucker. We ain't going down like that. Sorry, my apologies, Justin. It's on you. It's on you, Justin. Go ahead, talk.
All right. I'll keep
By the way, we are tied. So whatever you say wins this category.
Yeah.
So
all right. You guys. I'm here.
Pressure's on you.
I'm here to surprise y'all.
Okay.
I know what he's gonna do.
Okay.
Because I think performers on both sides are very, very good. And I think I'm with you both. The original songs for High School Musical, the musical series, are really, really good. They're really, really good. But I had on repeat, "Don't Stop Believing." And Since You've Been Gone as examples on my iPod for a year. So I'm actually going to give the edge to Glee.
Yes, do it. That feels right.
Strangers waiting up and down the boulevard.
Now, everybody, okay. Now we're talking about diverse characters, because again, this is Disney+Diversity, so this is where we're going to jump into the set. It's like, how do they use diverse characters? And as you know, diversity just doesn't include race. It includes sexuality, sex, a lot of variety of different things here. So we're going to talk about, in our own opinions, how they use diverse characters. Who would like to start us off here? Toni, you're our guest.
So I'm going to give the edge to High School Musical. I know. Listen, there are more there's like a higher number of diverse characters within Glee, right? Just because we're talking about so many episodes over the course of time, right? So there's more representation there. However, we're talking about the quality of representation. I would give the edge to High School Musical, just because one thing that we always talk about on Have You Tried Not Being a Podcast is the fact that I think it's in fact our first episode ever. We talked about the inclination for mainstream media to always make queer stories into trauma porn. There's always trauma-based storytelling revolving around queer characters or even just diverse characters, right? Like we see this all the time, right? Where like even you'll get backlash from, like, for example, the African American community. Like, we're tired of seeing films about, you know, the antebellum South. We're tired of, you know, films set in 1960s civil rights movement. Like, there are more stories to tell beyond just like the most like struggle films, right? Like, there's more beyond that. And even like, I'm Indigenous, like I'm Native American. I'm tired of seeing films about manifest destiny, about displacement and atrocities committed against Indigenous people. There are more stories to tell that come from my community, and every community has had that, I'm sure, you know. So when we talk about High School Musical moving to a point where these kids can just exist, they're not at risk of being outed, right? Because they're already out if they are. Their parents are accepting. They themselves have queer parents. The teachers all seem to be accepting, and even the disapproving teacher, Mr. Mazzara, he's not disapproving of them because they're queer or flamboyant or diverse or kids of color, right? It's because he just disagrees with, you know, the arts getting more attention than the robotics club. Like, okay, that feels real. Like, so I feel like there's better representation in High School Musical because we've reached a point where now you can just have nice, sweet, innocent stories about kids of color and queer kids and kids that don't usually see themselves, you know, like, for example, Ashlyn, she's the plus size character who seems to be really struggling a lot because she's cast as Belle in the second season in their production of Beauty and the Beast.
I think there's been a mistake.
Wait, did you not get a part?
I got the part.
Wait, you mean?
I got Belle. I'm Belle.
So she doesn't blatantly say, I feel uncomfortable because I'm a plus size curvy girl and they want me to play this character that is portrayed as like this beautiful, you know, slender, you know, every, you know, beauty standard that we have just come to life. But it's there, you know, she's talking about it and she's expressing it in a way where she's like, yeah, it feels weird and it is complicated, and she's addressing it. And that feels more real rather than just someone, for example, the way that they would try to address that on Glee with like Mercedes, where she straight up like starves herself to the point where she faints because she feels fat. And that just felt very weird. And then when the person that comes to talk to her is Quinn, which is the pretty cheerleader girl, to tell her like, yeah, I also used to have an eating disorder. And that's a really sweet moment, but it's also kind of like, there's a lot of problems. Where are the parents? Where to catch this? Where is the actual like, you know, positive reinforcement and the guiding forces that are supposed to be in these kids' lives? Whereas in High School Musical, you do have that. You have kids that have good support systems and that don't feel like they're at risk, really. What they have normal, yet very normalized problems. Like, oh dear, what am I going to get my boyfriend for his upcoming birthday? Like, that's a very sweet problem to have. That's something I'd rather see than just another like, gee, I hope my abuser doesn't decide to kick my face in today in the middle of this high school hallway, and I hope that if he does, somebody will be there to help me. Like, that was just like, oh, I really don't need to see that. Again, it was groundbreaking for the time. There was a time and place for Glee, and it's not something I really like to revisit at a certain point. I only like to look up the musical performances at a time. I'm not really trying to go through just those bits of trauma anymore. So I definitely appreciate High School Musical for their use of diverse characters. I feel like we've reached a point and it's time to go ahead and just keep going rather than revisiting some of the BS that we've had to put up with in the past.
No, I agree. Great points, Toni. For me, when I think about Glee, I always go back to Mercedes and her representation there, because Mercedes always is portrayed as like having this amazing voice. But again, when it came down to it, she was always portrayed as also having a better voice than Rachel. But there were moments in the show where she didn't get a respect. And I was like, why aren't you giving this woman her propers if she's such a much better singer than Rachel? Why is Rachel always getting these solos and getting these opportunities and whatnot? And I remember there was this one moment, I'm sure, Toni, you remember it. They were getting ready for like the fall musical, and they had to have a sing-off to get the lead. Artie was set as director, and then Will Schuster was there with them. And they have a sing-off. They sing the same exact song or whatever. And Rachel even says,
That was excellent. You were amazing.
She was better than me.
she sung it better than me. She came with it. And so instead of just giving Mercedes a lead, they're like, we're going to split it up. And it was like, the fuck? And again, we usually don't curse on there, but no, I was like, the fuck? And because, again, just blatant ass racism, they catered to Rachel because she was white or whatever.
Are you double casting any other roles?
No, just you guys.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Where are you going?
Tell me you were better than me. Tell me.
Oh, no.
Why is it that no one ever wants to hurt her feelings? You know, it's always been the Rachel Berry show around here, but it's not gonna be for me. No, not my senior year.
Mercedes, don't make this a stupid pride thing.
Oh, it's a pride thing, but it's not stupid.
And they go ahead and they do this, right? So in part of the storyline is Mercedes goes off, and her and Santana, they go and form the Treble Tones, they go and do their own thing or whatever. Problem is, though, they come back and they never address the racism that happened, and they just move on. And I'm sorry, that still gets me angry to this day because that's some bull. And the same thing happened at the end, I believe, of season 2, right before season 3, right before they got ready to go to New York, and the whole New York storyline started, whatever. Tina Cohen Chang was like, you know what? I want my time to shine.
Tina, you don't understand. I need this. Because you blew an audition, that's not a reason for you to get a solo at Nationals. Maybe the rest of us would like one too.
I wouldn't mind another one before I get deported.
I want one, even though I can't sing.
Tina, Rachel is a senior.
So are you, but you can bet the only thing you'll be doing is a dance break with Brittany. Other people matter.
Tina, you may not always get all the solos, but you were a key player. I put you in charge of costumes.
Wow, like that's some prize. You want props to move around? Well, I'm a human prop, and I'm sick of it.
Take a lap and cool down, Asian number 1.
My name is Tina. Tina Cohen Chang.
Because in the first episode, they established Tina is an amazing singer. She actually has the best voice, but she held back to allow Rachel to shine because, again, want to be a team player or whatever. And so this is the third season. Like, Tina, we see you trying to step up, but you got to wait. This is their senior year. Next year, it'll be your year to shine. I'm like, you know what? That's cool. Just give Tina her time to shine next season. That's totally fine. Then when we get to next season, who shows up? Gosh damn Supergirl. Exactly. So Kara from Supergirl is on this show first. They actually had a lot of superheroes when we think about it in the long run. But anyway, so Kara shows up in here, and they get her the star of the show. And so let me get this straight. Tina don't even get a chance to shine in her senior year. This is supposed to be her time. This is some bullshit. You do not want to put minorities in these leading roles. And this is why I have a problem with Ryan Murphy sometimes, because he likes putting people of color in these like positions, whatever, but he likes using this fucking decoration and not actually giving us storylines that matter and treat us fairly. Sorry, got a little upset. Let me bring that back now. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy here. First off, our lead is a minority, Olivia Rodrigo, and she's Filipino. Put it down for my Southeast Asian brothers and sisters. Then on top of that, though, we have a black man part of the cast. Didn't really have it on Glee. And this black man is in charge of the STEM department. I'm like, this brother knows science. He building robots. Is that an Iron Man suit? Season 3 is fucking coming. And I'm loving everything they're doing. I'm loving everything they're doing. Because, as Tony said, they have, what's the girl's name who's Belle the season?
Ashlyn.
Ashlyn's doing Belle. And what do? They're critiquing Disney on Disney. They're saying, I don't look like a Disney princess. Why are you putting me in this role? And it's like, we're putting you in this role because you earned it and we believe in you. Something Glee never did. And why Glee, at the time period, they tried to progress these storylines, it's like, look, fam, you was on Fox. Fox did Married with Children. They did New York Undercover. They did Living Single. You can do diverse storytelling on Fox. They will let you slide. You were scared to do it, and you didn't do it justice. Disney, High School Musical, the series, said the whole thing there for you, Justin. They're doing it on the Disney Channel and even critiquing Disney, and I got to give them the respect for it. So when it comes to use of diverse characters representation, I'm going to give the High School Musical the series because Tony's also right. The use of queer characters is also dope as well. Great show. Great show. I'm sorry. Justin, go. Justin, go.
Oh, High School Musical, the series.
Justin, what are you doing, Justin?
What can I add that you two didn't already say? You know?
I don't want to make it seem like, since this was like essentially a clean sweep for High School Musical, that there is nothing redeemable about Glee, because Glee has a lot of good stuff. It's just, unfortunately, it's not timeless. It's not classic. It is a product of its time, and definitely it does have its problems, because even if you kind of dig deeper, that was a very white writer's room. It was a very white male gay writer's room. So you could see how they were comfortable telling some stories, and definitely other stories and other characters, especially when we're talking about diverse characters, they were kind of like, okay. And then they just went on to the next week's episode.
Yeah.
It's totally dope. That's a really great point.
Yeah, because you kind of see it in a couple of different things. Because I agree with you. Like, when it comes to the LGBTQI and the queer storylines, it was groundbreaking for the time, because at the time we had that show, we had Will and Grace, but it was the beginning of representation for that. When it comes to other character storylines, they legit fun. But when it comes to Black stories, we've had stories. You just had to do us right, but you didn't do that at all because you said the writers' room again did have if they would have had a person of color, a Black woman, someone in there would have called out, "Oh wait up, hold a pause. Y'all to give my girl Mercedes respect." And to that point, also with the Asian American characters on that show, because as you said, they had Mike Chang and Tina together, but it's like, bruh, for real? It's like you could have mixed that up. Why not having the racial dating going right there? And then honestly, whenever they did do anything with Mike and Tina, it was always kind of like damn near insulting. Like when Mike got the Asian F episode. Justin, you had stopped watching at that point, right? I think you had stopped watching.
I heard about the episode.
Yeah,
I heard about it.
Yeah,
that bullshit.
Even when he goes through a whole thing because he, as character, the Mike Chang character, wants to dance.
Yeah.
And of course, his family expects him to go to school and get a respectable, career, and dancing is just not a part of that plan. So then there's this whole thing about like, oh, my parents aren't going to accept me, which is a very real thing that a lot of people go through, right? But they wrap it up within the course of like, I think like an episode or two at the most.
Wow.
Whereas when you talk about Kurt's, progression from being a closeted young kid to actually saying the words, "Dad, I'm gay," his dad supporting him, saying like, "Well, duh, I knew that," ever since.
I love that, by the way. I do love that.
Right. And Burt Hummel was a fantastic character. Loved him. But
amazing.
To see the progression where he is someone who has acknowledged the fact that, like, yeah, I used to be very uncomfortable with my son's sexuality. I used to be someone that he would not have liked when I was a kid, and if he and I were kids together, we would not have mixed at all. Like that's a character who's acknowledging his own faults, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't get that with Mike Chang or anybody else's family, right? You don't get that opportunity to actually have the father or the parent or just deeper context provided, so that way they can understand like why a parent is acting the way that they're acting. How is that going to affect them in the future? We have no idea what happens to Mike Chang. I don't remember a single thing about what happens to Mike Chang because Tina just ends up with Artie again, or at least it's implied that they're just back together again, like always. And it's like, okay, cool. So we have no idea what happened to Mike. He could be on his way to just becoming a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. We have no idea. Nothing is ever said about that. It's just a character that was there for a minute, and I'm sure Mike Shum, Harry Shum Jr. like had opportunities, and good for him. No longer needed that show. But for the show to just, you better stop it, Donnie.
No, real talk though, because here's the thing. Because I was thinking about the legacy of the show as we talk about this, because we're already into our final thought section. The thing about it is though, is that like when it comes down to it, I think about the legacy. Where are these actors now? And the thing about it is though, and that was like one of the links I sent out, is that like a lot of things they talk about like with some of the people on set and everything like that. There was a lot of drama that happened with the actor Leah Michele, portrayed Rachel Berry, got caught up for racism during the Black Lives Matter movement and everything like that. And she did some very problematic things. And again, it was like, but Ryan Murphy, why didn't you call her out for that? Why weren't you an advocate when she's over here like demeaning the cast? Like, dude, you made this dope show. She is not the show. But again, you didn't do that. You kind of allowed these things to go on. But then also when I think about the legacy of the shows, like where are these actors now? A lot of these actors, I don't see them like off doing that many different things.
Well, to talk about how problematic that show was, I mean, like Chris Colfer, he doesn't sing anymore because that show would take every opportunity it could to talk about how womanly and feminine his voice was. The fact that he would sound like a Muppet on helium or whatever, which apparently, it's especially when you're talking about the fact that they were kids themselves while that show was going on.
Right.
There are podcasts where these folks have shown up to talk about their experiences, and you can kind of see like it's not something, I don't think that a lot of them look back on it completely with 100% fond feelings. It feels like a complicated experience. It feels like something where, for example, Chris Colfer's case, where he's just like, yeah, I don't feel the need to sing anymore. I'm good.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad because in a weird way, like we make fun of the Disney. Well, we haven't really made fun of, but I've heard people make fun of the Disney machine before and what they've done with their actors. But I give them credit. What they're doing by their actors currently, they're doing a much better job because we see a lot of actors who go through the Disney process or whatever, and they come out on the other end pretty well and come out to great success. You see that with the Jonas Brothers. You see that with yeah, now they do. You see that with Miley Cyrus, and recently Olivia Rodrigo is living her dream at the same time while still being on the show, which is really dope to see her being like one of the rising best pop artists in the world, which is dope to see because again, thinking about the legacy of Glee, when it came back to diverse characters, we didn't bring this up. They would have introduced characters but not give them respect. Justin, you left it, but in season 2, they introduced this girl who's of Filipino descent who was an amazing singer.
Oh, I know who he is. I caught her. Oh, don't get me wrong. If
Yeah.
there's a Filipino character, I went back to check on
Yeah.
that character.
And that performance at Telephone.
And she got.
Hello, hello, baby, you're good, I can hear a thing. I have got no service in the club, you say. Stop telephoning I'm busy.
Shut up!
Even when you're talking about just people who would show up, they would be gone. Like, again, that at a certain point, Glee felt like an assembly line. We're going to crack out an episode, and then we're just going to move on to the next.
Like, real
especially
talk.
in regards to like its diverse characters. They'll be here for a minute, and then they're gone. And again, though, you're talking about a room that, when I looked at it, very white, very male. So a gaze that is coming from white male gaze, and you're not having a lot of other diverse voices that can actually get in there and be like, excuse me. And that's not to say that Alex Newell didn't have their own perspective on the character and didn't infuse their own perspectives of it. But it's also like Alex Newell was very young at the time. So to kind of place that pressure on such a young person, that's a lot. That is a lot. And I felt like it would have been better had that show actually had a support system in the way of like showrunners and writers who could have actually, said like, hey, we want to do this for you, and we want to, how do you feel about that? Let's have a collaboration so that way we feel like this rings true to you.
Wait, I'm confused. Are you talking about Glee or season 3 of American Horror Story, Witches?
Correct.
But up.
Are they on? Is Alex still on the show? They didn't do it?
No. But it was just season 3's Witches season where they also deal with slavery. And it was like, we doing this, y'all? We doing this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We'll get to that later.
I didn't see that, but okay. That doesn't sound like.
I have problems with Ryan Murphy shows. Okay, so.
But as always, again, so it looks like the winner of all is High School Musical the
series.
It won our first verses. Fight! Toni, thank you for coming on as always. Please, again, give your contact information and plug and like, where can people find you?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on all social medias at the Toni Sanchez, Toni with an I, Sanchez with a Z. You can find me. Have You Tried Not Being a Podcast about queer representation in pop culture and media. You can also find me on the Astonishing X Show, where I talk about X-Men all the time. What else do I do? Oh, and I'm a frequent guest host on the Fresh Podcast of LA.
You're not a
co-host.
No, I'm a frequent guest host.
You said it. You were about to say co-host.
I did, and I caught myself. So that's where you can find me.
And you can always find her here when we can't afford to pay anybody, and she is our good friend and our only friend, the Toni Sanchez.
The only friend.
Yep. Woo! All right, everybody, thank you. And Justin, do you hear that?
We were so nice. High School Musical won. Why are they? Why now? They won. Disney won. Like, I'm so tired of running. All right, see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Believe it. Bye.